Action.
Hi everyone, this is Haideh again, and I am thinking about a child with disability. And how do we welcome a child with disability in our program? As far as I remember, every year I've had one or two children with different disabilities and different diagnoses. What I think is, how can I welcome this child beyond the diagnosis or the label, and look through the lens of holistic approach and see the child as a whole with all the capabilities.
Can you give us an example of a child that you'd worked with and how you were able to do that?
For example, I've had many children with autism, but they come from different spectrum and different ways of being. Recently, I've had a child with autism that likes to run off, and that is the fear of the educator, the parent, and everyone else. What if he runs off? And one day I come to the playground, the child wants to open the gate and run off the gate. My fear is overcoming my whole body, but at the same time, I'm thinking, what if we go down the path together? That is another thought nudging me. So I offer my hand and say, okay, let's go. Can we hold hands? We hold hands. I still have the fear, what if he runs off into the road? But I realize that just holding my hand, I am making connection with that child. And that child is making connection with me based on trust.
So what you're saying is go with the flow of a child.
Go with the flow of the child and what he is or she is looking at that moment.
And I'd like
That's life.
I'd like to add something here, as as someone with with Tourette's syndrome, is that if you've got a kid with Tourette's and they get all angry and mad, normally in teaching in teaching principles, is the teacher always has to be correct. What modern learning in education has done, if you've got someone like me living with Tourette's and we're all sort of stubborn and really mad, is you don't try to get into right and wrong. What you do is you put us off into another room and have us play with some paints or something so we can vent and then come back. So what you're saying is wonderful. If you could just sort of, review what you would do when, say, a child with autism, comes in. What's the first thing that you do? Is it do you check in with your own emotions first?
I check with my emotions first, and I check with his emotion or her emotion, because there is a midpoint that we can meet and be safe in that open space. We need to let that crack open and see each other through that crack.
And I love what you said was, if you see a child and it wants to run off, why don't you just run off with it versus trying to shut the kid down? Because as someone who lives with OCD and ADD, if you do that with me, my head explodes. But if in other words, I'm helpless, I have to go out that door. And what you've just done is realize that you have to understand and move with that.
Exactly.
If you grab my hand, I'll love you forever. But more importantly, you're able to help me with my madness or the anxiety I feel with inside. So thank you, Haideh. Is there any last words you want to add?
One thing that I want to add is us opening the space. Not just physical space, but that emotional space and pedagogical space where the child feels that he is seen beyond that disability.
What are some of the steps that you do to help the kid get to that understanding?
We have some rules in every preschool, but you can modify those rules. If a child is in need or he's looking for a space to run, I create that space for running, and I think that doesn't damage anyone, but helps that child.
Thank you, Haideh. Amazing.
Thank you.